Call to order the Brentwood Board of Aldermen meeting for May 15th of 2017. If you'd all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. A roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Here.
Alderman Kramer,
Present.
Alderwoman O'Neill. Here. Alderman Leahy,
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Here.
Alderman Plufka,
Here.
Alderwoman Sims. Here. Alderman Weggie,
Here.
and Mayor Thornton.
I'm here. Item number 3 on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any changes or amendments to this evening's agenda? I think I had just one. I'm going to remove item 18A. Well, I'd entertain a motion to remove 18A and replace it with the election of the acting president of the Board of Aldermen.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to doing this by acclamation? Seeing none, it'll be accepted by acclamation. Are there any additional changes to tonight's agenda? Great. Seeing none, it'll be approved by acclamation. Consideration and approval of the minutes, item number 4 on the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the Board of Aldermen meeting minutes from April 17th? Seeing none, if there are any... Oh, sorry, Brandon.
The roll call I'm showing is absent, but I was there.
Can you prove it?
Yeah, I'm in the later minutes.
Oh, are you on the video?
I'm on the YouTube, I verified.
All right. I guess I'd entertain that as a motion to amend the minutes to include Alderman Weggie as being present. Any
Second.
objection to that amendment? Take it by acclamation. Seeing no objection, we'll take that amendment by acclamation. Are there any additions to the minutes? Seeing none, if there's no objection, we'll take them by acclamation as well. Excellent. The same question with respect to the meeting minutes of May 1, 2017.
Not available.
Oh, those are not available yet. My apologies. We will postpone that till the future. Item number 5. Tonight, we have recognition. There's been a promotion in our fire department, and I'd ask Chief Curtin to come forward and tell us all about it.
Good evening, everybody. This is one of the fun parts of the job. It's congratulating somebody on a job well done. Jake took this very seriously and did a tremendous job, scored very highly in the process, and made it very easy to offer him this position. If I may, I'd like to just give you a little history on Jake. Jake started his career with the Brentwood Fire Department as a firefighter-paramedic in May of 2007. Before starting his career in Brentwood, he was a volunteer firefighter with the Eureka Fire Protection District and worked as a paramedic for the Gateway and St. Louis City Fire Departments. He obtained a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in management from the University of Missouri, St. Louis. He received his paramedic training through St. Anthony's Medical Center and St. Louis Community College and graduated to St. Louis County Fire Academy in 2006. Jake has been a dedicated and loyal member of the Brentwood Fire Department since his hire date. In March 2012, he was elected shop steward by his peers and held that position until being promoted to lieutenant in August of 2014. In May of 2017, Jay earned the rank of captain. Jake's been married to his wife Livia for 7 years, and they have 3 children, Cameron, Tommy, and Natalie. So with that, I'd like to have Jake come up and his wife Livia come up, and we'll exchange his badge.
All right.
So, Livia, would you mind taking this lieutenant's badge over?
Don't sticky.
One more time.
I think we have to do one, yeah, two new ones. Oh, right there?
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Appreciate
Good
it.
job, Chief. Good job.
Congratulations.
All right, item number 6 on the agenda. We don't have any proclamations, we have no public hearings, and we have no bids, which brings us to item number 9. Hearing of any matter of public interest upon the request of any person present. If anyone would care to come forward and address the Board of Aldermen, you'll have 3 minutes. I'm seeing no one come forward. All right, we're going to go past item number 9 on the agenda. We have no unfinished business at item number 10, which brings us to item number 11, bills to be given a first reading. Mr. City Attorney, we have bill number 6130 by title only, please.
Bill number 6130, first reading, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of service agreements with Arcturus.
All right, Alderman Kramer, do we have a synopsis?
Yes, Your Honor. Bill number 6130, our first reading, covers the agreement with Arcturus for landscape architecture services that's associated with our Manchester Road improvements. Our city, in conjunction with the Missouri Department of Transportation Manchester Road Pavement Improvements Project, that runs from our city limits from Lindbergh Boulevard to Big Bend Boulevard, request a separate proposed contract with Arcturus for landscape architect services to be coordinated with TWM, Incorporated Engineering Services contract for the Manchester Road Pavement Improvement Project. Work scope includes planning and graphic design services that to create special enhancements, including a civic identity along Manchester Road, which will help to provide a foundation of a broader civic identity throughout the city of Brentwood. In addition, the work scope includes data collection and plan review of MoDOT's plans, the Brentwood Comprehensive Plan, zoning regulations, and parks open space plans. Deliverables for those should include files associated with the data collection, site inventory analysis, meeting documentation, and corridor plan alternatives. The corridor plan alternatives, total of 2 plans, will illustrate the proposed enhancements, focusing on civic identity, wayfinding, gateways along the corridor, and on the adjacent streets, signage, landscaping, public art, lighting, and the like. A final corridor plan deliverable will be incorporated into the preliminary plans for the Manchester Road Improvements Project. Our Public Works Committee has recommended to the Board of Aldermen the consideration of an ordinance approving the execution of service agreement with Arcturus and the special enhancements for the Manchester Road Improvements Project, all contained within the language of Bill number 6130.
All right, thank you. I'm going to guess Dan is going to present something to the board on this.
I don't know if anyone has any specific questions. This differs from the TWM contract, which is for its second reading, in the sense that this is more, as it states, civic identity. It's more how does Arcturus tie the comprehensive plan that we're working on to the enhancements along Manchester Road, versus TWM is more traffic design, geometry, true engineering. So this is more holistic, big picture. And I know that they'll concentrate on some of the gateways, which it also mentions in their contract, as far as Manchester Road at High School intersection, Manchester at Brentwood, Manchester at Hanley Road, and then Brentwood Boulevard at Litzinger. So,
Alderman Plufka.
The questions I had to do with, this is going to be a sort of a design package of not just, curb cut design, things like that.
Correct.
Landscaping and the like. Would the signage and the look of the signal lights and things like that be something that we might eventually expand to incorporate kind of throughout the city? Would this be sort of a precursor to that? Is that the thought
I
at all?
would say so, yes.
Okay.
We
Thank-
hope to bring them back once, and this will be an agreement that will go before the Board of Aldermen. So once the comp plan is presented and adopted, I believe that what Lisa indicates that we're hearing is that the community wants a design, a branding for each neighborhood, area of town. So they have expertise in doing this, Columbia, for instance. So ultimately, that's the long-term goal, to bring them back to develop something citywide.
I didn't see it mentioned specifically, but with this is maybe a minor thing, but would there be not just the streets that would be, as reflected in one of the photographs, the way the light box is there for the side street, Sutton, Boulevard in that instance. But would there also be design of some kind of banners and things like that that would fit onto light poles and things like that? Would that be?
I don't know if our code allows for all of that, but that's something we would definitely consider.
Okay.
Do you want to get up to that?
So, yeah, I think you're on the right track with all of those types of design features. So, again, this would kind of be then the pattern that we would follow throughout the community, is what was already mentioned. And just specking out light fixtures, trash receptacles. And this company had already worked for the city of Brentwood and did a lot of this for the Parks and Recreation Department. So we are kind of building on that foundation and moving it forward.
Okay.
So, yes, and then again, we would look to implement any of the design and the branding citywide.
If I'm not mistaken, aren't they the firm that did the signage for the trail system? Eric?
They are,
Yeah.
yes.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Alderman Demmett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan, on page 2 of the contract, the proposed contract with Arcturus, section 2.2.1.1, entitled Corridor Plan Alternatives Development.
Okay.
It says that the maximum of 2 corridor plan alternatives will be produced. Can you just tell me what that means?
The way it's worded there, the corridor plan alternatives would be like if you wanted, art installations, if you wanted some sort of enhancement that isn't part of TWM, but again, kind of goes with the adopted comprehensive plan of having a sense of purpose, having an identity in Brentwood. So it could be, city of warmth, more monumentation, things of that nature, whatever the committee and board decides.
So it's 2 separate drawings that they come up with?
Right, you might have like alternate A, which includes these 4 intersections, and
Okay.
alternate B. So it's whatever direction you want us to go in as far as what you want to see, the vision of the comprehensive plan, how it's realized out in the field.
Any other questions? Alderman Wiggy, we're okay? All right. For those of you in the audience, Alderman Wiggy is in Washington, D.C. this evening, but thanks to our newfangled remote system, he is able to participate in the meeting vis-a-vis teleconference. So unfortunately, that doesn't allow you all to see his pretty face, but we all can, and he is here virtually this evening. So anyway, thank you, Dan. All right. That takes us to item number 12 on the agenda. 12A, bill to be given second reading, bill number 6123.1. Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Mr. Mayor, I believe it would be appropriate to entertain a motion to amend Bill 6123 by the text of Bill 6123.1 before second reading.
You know what? I believe you're right. And if I hadn't been spending so much time being an audio engineer prior to the meeting, I would know that already. So,
So moved, Your Honor.
Seconded?
Section 3 gets changed to the red line.
Right.
Is the motion.
okay, so it's been moved and seconded that Section 3 be changed, or the bill be amended to change Section 3 to the text that appears on the red line version that the board does have in front of it. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And there are no, any opposed? All right, so it's unanimous. We will be then entertaining the amended bill number 6123 by title only, please.
Bill number 6123.1, second reading and consideration for adoption as amended. An ordinance providing for site plan approval for a signage plan for 2525 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
All right, Alderman Kramer, do you have a synopsis?
Yes, Your Honor. Bill number 6123, eligible for legislation this evening, our second reading for P&Z case 1704, the amendment to the comprehensive signage plan for birthright counseling located at 2525 South Brentwood Boulevard. The property at that address is governed by a signage plan that was approved by the Board of Aldermen back in 2010. The 2 existing 8-square-foot wall signs for birthright counseling on the north and south elevations of the building were approved as part of the original signage plan for the property. Birthright Counseling is now requesting an amendment to the signage plan to remove the 2 existing 8-square-foot wall sign cabinets on the north and south elevations of the building and to replace those with signage consisting of new channel letters. Proposed new signs are now 21.75 square foot in size. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed and recommended the language and approval of Bill number 6123.
All right, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect.
Dot one.
Your Honor, if I may,
Sure.
I'll make the motion to perfect it, but I'd like to clarify in the synopsis that 21.75 also gets changed. The signs become 19.62. That's the red line correction, is the square
Got it.
the square footage
Oh,
of the
okay, so
sign.
I'm sorry, the synopsis was.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To work with.
I think we'll be all right. Okay, thank you, yep.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we perfect Bill number 6123.1. Discussion on the bill is now appropriate.
I have a question.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Even with the change here, this is still more than twice the present size. And if it's more than twice the present size and P and Z thinks that is all right, do we know their rationale? It seems like a huge jump to me.
Did we get a report with this one? I believe Director Kirkmeyer is familiar with the case. I don't know if she'll be able to answer your question, but.
So yes, this went in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission at their April meeting, and what was presented by Birthright Counseling to amend their comprehensive signage plan was to remove, as the synopsis called out, the two existing 8 square foot signs and replace it with 21.75. So it is quite a jump in size. There was some questions, but they went ahead and approved it. And so actually, after talking with Birthright Counseling after our last meeting, there is now an amendment so that's the reason for the red line in your ordinance. They actually do want to reduce the size of it, but they're still requesting to replace it with two 19.62 square foot signs. So that still is sizable from, what is there now. Yeah, but the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve as it was presented. The only thing that I was asked that I couldn't answer at the last meeting, but we updated the staff report, so I hope you're able to read that. But I was asked at the May 1st meeting if this project still just fell under the city's general signage requirements, how would kind of their proposal match up, if you will. So we took a look at it. The main reason I think why the property there has fell under a comprehensive sign plan for the most part is because of the way the building is oriented. So you have 3 tenants in the building, so it's a multi-tenant, multi-story building. But the way the current code requirements, sign requirements would have been, the whole entire property would have only been allowed 1 wall sign, 1 for the whole building. And that also would have had to front on the South Brentwood Boulevard side because it was the only wall sign that met the criteria, because it wasn't a side street, it doesn't intersect with a side street, and it doesn't have a parking lot that also abuts to a side street. So I think that was probably the justification for a comprehensive sign plan to begin with. But then we also looked, because we were asked about what would be the sign that would be allowed. So again, just so we're all on the same page, there would be no wall sign on the north and south elevations of the building. But also, let's play for argument's sake that if there were wall signs that would have been allowed, then the way that would have been computed, and I think Alderman Waggy had questioned that at the last meeting, there is a calculation for the sign area that's based on allowing 1/4 square feet of sign face per lineal foot of tenant frontage. So if you looked at the frontage on the north elevation that Refine Room has, Birthright Counseling, and the other tenant, Birthright Counseling and the other tenant, their linear footage would have been around 50 square feet. So that would have allowed then only like a 12.5 square foot wall sign. But also the code under the general sign requirement says you can have a minimum of 20. So I think that's why Birthright had modified their request. So it falls under that 20 square foot sign area allowance. But again, like I said, there wouldn't be wall signage allowed on the north and south elevations. So, but at least now you have, I think, some way to kind of compare.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
I have one.
Oh, sorry. Alderman Waggy.
Yeah, just for clarification, so the Well, you put it correct, I understand the blue letters that's shown
Hey,
in the drawings.
Brandon, we're having a little bit of an audio problem here. So can you say your question
So
again?
just a point of clarification. Yeah, sure. So just clarification, the sign would be lit up at night as shown in the plan with the blue lettering?
Correct, it's a backlit sign.
Yes, it's a backlit sign.
Okay. I'll just say, I'm not in favor of this amendment. I don't feel like it fits in. It's gonna be high up in the air and all the work that, we've done to get rid of the pole signs. It just doesn't seem like a good fit. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, Brandon, you might try speaking just a little more slowly. The audio doesn't seem to be able to keep up with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Much better.
You're
All
on.
right. Alderman Leahy.
Lisa, the way I'm reading this bill, if we approve what Birthright is asking, they can put it on the north and south. The other tenant has the Brentwood Boulevard. Can another tenant put something underneath Birthright and still meet the requirements since we're opening it up for Birthright? Or did the Birthright eat up all of the sign spacing?
So again, as long as it would come through as an amendment to the original comprehensive sign plan, there could be other additional or future requests such
And
as
it's for
that.
that
But it'd have to be
reason,
approved.
I'm
so.
agreeing with Mr. Wiggy. I would recommend that we not start tinkering and going case by case to go back to whatever everybody wants to do. I agree you need to be visible to make your business successful, but I don't want it to become an advertisement boulevard. And I think that's where we're headed if we keep expanding our sizes. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Any further discussion on the bill? Okay, thank you, Lisa. Seeing none, we'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Demmett,
No.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
No.
Alderman Plufka,
No.
Alderwoman Sims,
No.
Alderman Weggie,
No.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
and Alderman Lockmiller.
No.
I count 1-7, so the bill will not pass. All right, item number 12B is bill number 6124. Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6124, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance amending subsection D of section 400.1400 of the city's zoning code pertaining to site plan approval requirements in the urban development district in order to require site plan approval for alterations, expansions, or changes to an existing development within the district.
Thank you. Alderman Kramer, can we have a synopsis, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Bill number 6124, the second reading covers planning and zoning case 17-05, an ordinance amending subsection D of section 400.1400 of the city's zoning code pertaining to the site plan approval requirements in the urban development district. That in order to require site plan approval for alterations, expansions, or changes to an existing development within that district. And our Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed the proposed text amendments to amend Chapter 400.1400 of the UD Urban Development District, specifically 400.1400D, in order to require site plan approval for alterations, expansions, or changes to existing buildings within the UD Development District, and to clarify the application of setback requirements to such existing buildings, as well as 400.14E to allow greater flexibility with regard to building height and size, but not setbacks or lot coverage in the UD district. It's also recommended the Board of Aldermen consider the UD district be amended, which would require site plan approval by the Board of Aldermen, utilizing the site plan approval process on the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for all proposed developments, alterations, expansions, or changes within the UD district. However, the ambiguity of a sentence stating that the existing buildings and uses within the UD district shall be exempt from this requirement where the construction contemplated is due to the expansion and improvement of a single property, provided the applicable development standards are met, and the proposed development and improvement would not cause the violation of any pre-existing conditions of approval for the existing property would be deleted. Additionally, the board shall consider amendments allowing greater flexibility with regard to building height and size and reviewing the site plans for each development on a case-by-case basis, taking into consideration each development's proposed mixed use, special site conditions, and site considerations. The present UD district building regulations are not clear if the bulk and height of buildings, as regulated by acreage size, is to be applied by the size of the parcel or the size of the district. This amendment would allow the bulk and height of buildings to be determined by the appropriateness of the particular parcel in which they are located and be consistent with the character of surrounding developments and the purposes of the UD district. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed all of this information and recommend approval of Bill number 6124.
All right, thank you. If the board has no objection, I'm going to ask our city attorney to give 12C, which is 6129, a first reading by title only as well. Then what we would do is have discussion on both bills, but vote separately, since they pertain to much the same subject matter, if that's all right. Mr. City Attorney, second reading of bill number 6129 by title only, please.
Bill number 6129, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance amending subsection E of section 400.1400 of the city's zoning code pertaining to building regulations for developments within the urban development district.
All right, thank you, and we'll take the synopsis as read. And I would entertain a motion with respect to 6124.
Your Honor, motion to perfect Bill 6124 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board perfect bill number 6124 into ordinance form. I would also entertain a motion with respect to 6129.
Your Honor, I make a motion to perfect Bill 6129 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board perfect bill number 6129 into ordinance form. Technically, I'm not supposed to have two motions on the floor at the same time, but hey, we'll give it a shot.
Your Honor, just a point of clarification, do we need to make a clarification about the redlined version versus the original version on both of these?
I don't think so. I'll ask our city
I
attorney.
believe these were introduced, the red line is informative,
Yeah.
not a change on this reading.
Yeah,
So
I don't think it's a change to what was discussed
Right,
at the
red
last
line
meeting.
is for the boards, facilitate the board's review.
Okay.
Okay, discussion on either one of these bills. Alderman Leahy.
If I may, can I address the question to the city assistant administrator?
Sure.
Okay. Lisa, my apprehension on bills is the fact that it allows an opening of height, and my problem is where that falls. Currently, under the UD district, is there a height limitation that a building can be built on a UD district?
Can I check my code?
Please.
All right. It would be in the ordinance here.
The pending ordinance eliminates any height requirement and allows us to do a case by case.
Sure. On the striked out ordinance, when that table was still in place, which is one of the things we are recommending that it be removed.
Okay.
It's, as long as a district was over 4 acres, the building height was unlimited. That's what the current code is.
Okay. My fear is that we're opening up smaller parcels and we can
Sure.
end up putting some large buildings in some small.
Monstrosities. Yeah.
And I don't know that the city can effectively provide high-rise protection arrangements for it. So I'm not anxious to see Brentwood, even in the commercial district in the corridors, change to go to something like that. So I'm hesitant.
Right. And I think that was expressed by yourself and maybe some others at the earlier meeting. But just like what we did with amendments to the UD before, although we put, again, this happened with the parking restrictions, the landscape bonuses, although those mechanisms were put in that code, which gave the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately the Board of Aldermen more latitude, it was always based on something. And I think even the attorney had made the point that some might argue that it just kind of opens up pretty much subjectivity. But if you still have criteria that you're supposed to follow on a case-by-case review as you take in these development proposals individually. I guess that's how I still would answer to your concern.
Alderman Plufka.
Thank you. To your point, would it be fair to say that in instances where we have ordinances like this that are,
I'm sorry, are you asking a question?
I am directing it to
Hey,
Lisa.
I just want to remind the board, since we seem to be getting into this a little bit, and I'm not going to cut this off, but the question and answer period is supposed to be at the first reading, and then the discussion and opinion is supposed to be at the second reading. So
I would simply,
go ahead. I just want to, I have no problem with the board getting all the information it needs, but really you understand what I'm saying?
I was asking a question I think I know the answer
Go ahead.
to in an effort to make a point.
Sure.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that in instances where, in the planning area, where you've got some latitude and some leeway here, some flexibility, as you put it, in this ordinance, that actually that flexibility inures to the body itself? I mean, if we're more constricted in what we can do and what we can't do, we actually have fewer options and fewer abilities to exert any pressure on a potential developer to conform the design, size, setback, position, placement of their development. We have more criteria with the way this has been changed, and we have a greater ability to exert some influence on their decision-making process before it comes to a vote, like to the Board of Aldermen. Would that be fair to say?
I would agree to that.
Okay, so my being in favor of both this bill and the next bill is based in part on that. Is that I respect Alderman Leahy's comment, and I think it's a good observation to make. However, I come down on the other side of it to say, yes, it does allow for a greater amount of latitude, but that can be a good thing when the board, not only P&Z, but the Board of Aldermen, still have the opportunity to utilize those criteria with regard to context, size and place, and location, and can, I think, with good planning and with good information and good staff who bring us ideas and look at these ideas as to whether or not they conform with what not just is going on right now, but what's going on 5 years from now, what's going on hopefully 10 years from now, where we see as the future of this parcel of land. I think this ordinance, the way it's been changed, allows us a greater ability to accomplish that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I actually, to Alderman Leahy's point, I think you raise an excellent point, and that is, to the extent we start removing objectiveness, it gets a little scary. Objectiveness provides that type of safety, if you will. However, when you contrast that with the problems that we're facing with the UD district, and as I understand it with the UD district, that those are peculiar lots that present a lot of challenges on developing. And when we have those objective standards, it makes it darn near impossible to develop those lots. And so I think the need for some flexibility outweighs the cost of removing those objective standards. While I agree with Alderman Leahy that it's nice to have those in place, it provides a lot of safety, a lot of predictability, I think it's important for us, if we're going to have this UD district work properly, we have to remove those things and put the faith in staff, put the faith in Planning and Zoning Commission.
Alderman Leahy.
In responding, my dilemma is, and I wrestled with that, by the time the plans reach the Board of Aldermen, your contractor or landowner has already invested a fortune in both setbacks and everything if he wants to put into the plans and all of his costs. And I find it real hard for the board at that time in the process to go back and say, no, I think you need to drop it back another 10 feet from the street, and I need you to come down 2 floors, and let's all send it back to Planning and Zoning to review it. I think we've let him get too far along in the process, and then it makes it very hard for this board to say, yeah, the board will go ahead with it this time. And we then creep into constant development and hodgepodgeness. Thus, by keeping to the code and the conformity, your planning and zoning board knows what your board's gonna be looking at and how it's gonna react to it. And your contractors aren't gonna be submitting things that are way outside to work with. And I can see that happening to us, and I can see us not being hard on the developer, because yes, we would like some improvements along our corridors and stuff, but I want some uniformity in it.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Leahy, I couldn't agree more with you. And I think that is, I don't think this is an easy decision.
It's a
to
risk.
do that. And I can tell you from serving on planning and zoning for 10 years, while we do have standards, that some places, those are simply criteria. And we did tell developers when they came in with their plans, no, this isn't going to fly. And I will also tell you that based on experience, I think a lot of times they meet with staff in advance, and staff has felt the temperature, and they can communicate to the developer, I really don't think this is going to work there, based on how planning and zoning has dealt with this thing in the past, or just by looking at it. You know, I think Lisa could certainly look at this and say, you know what, I think what you're proposing here is not in proportion at all. And I don't think it's going to get very far without you making changes. So I think at that point, you're putting the developer on notice. Either work with Lisa or don't invest a whole lot until you get a little bit further down the road.
Any further discussion? Alderman Wege? I guess I would just share with the board, you know, I've only been the mayor for a couple of years, but I would share with the board, in that short period of time, we probably had 4 projects come that had been zoned UD. And I have noted that there is objective criteria in our code right now that ties lot size to building height. And I can't for the life of me figure out what, as Lisa pointed out, if you've got a 4-acre lot, you can build as high as you want. That's objective. Well, it's objective, but makes no sense. And you know, if you're on a 2-acre lot, you can only go 4 stories, and if you're on a 3-acre lot, you can go 10. Well, I don't want a 10-story building. I mean, you know, so I guess what I would say is that I have seen that we have objective criteria right now, but they're objective and yet somewhat illogical, at least as far as I can see from what from what people are trying to accomplish. So, like I said, I just share that as past experience over the last 2 years. So. Alderman Kramer?
Your Honor, is it possible to ask Director Kirkemeyer one more question?
Sure, if you'd like.
Okay, please. Thank you. Hey, Lisa, just for the edification of those who may be aware and be wondering, for clarification purposes, the city has a PD zoning possibility. What would be the challenge in taking a parcel that's otherwise challenged by UD and simply rezoning it to PD?
Not sure if I'm maybe following, you mean in terms of the allowances then, the difference between the 2 districts?
Flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I tried to point out at the last meeting, the Planned Development Overlay District is somewhat like the UD. In fact, it's called an overlay district. So there are certain standards that are set, but then the overlay allows, again, to some degree, some of this flexibility in certain areas of the code. So I would say that the UD, though, should be reserved. I don't see us approving as much property as UD as planned development. They actually state, beginning when you look at the code, that they're intended for certain purposes and they're different. And the UD really is more for that one where you're going to have areas and districts. And again, it could be made up of one parcel, one developer, many developers, many parcels. But the idea behind the UD is you're really looking for mixed use, and that you would have a combination, like Hanley Station probably is still the best example, where you have, you know, high density residential, you have restaurant, you have
Retail.
entertainment. And so that's again why it makes it a little bit harder to fit the hand in glove thing in a UD than a PD. Again, I don't want to say that the PD is so stringent as well. In some ways it kind of acts as a UD, but I can see that more parcels are going to be zoned planned development, which also allows a host more of uses than the urban development district. The urban development district by design has by far less uses that are even permitted or it can even be requested by conditional use. So,
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will take a roll call vote on bill number 6124. This is bill number 6124, amending subsection D of 400.1400. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie,
He can't,
Brandon, are you with us?
Maybe you can't hear. Oh,
it's frozen.
Brandon, are you with us? Okay, well, I think.
Is he
for-
voting with this hand?
I think we're probably not at this point meeting the criteria that are necessary anyway, so I think we'll have to have him abstain from the vote, or what would you call that, a pass, an abstention?
Abstention.
Yeah, okay, so an abstention from the vote, so you can mark him as an abstention, sorry. I still count 6-1, so the bill will pass. Now we'll have a roll call vote on bill numbers. Big part.
The ordinance number.
Oh, an ordinance number, sorry, yes.
Go ahead.
Bill number 6124 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4776.
Okay, now we'll have a roll call vote on bill number 6129. This is the bill amending subsection E of section 400.14. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie,
We'll mark Alderman Waggy as an abstention.
Yes.
Oh,
Got you in on it.
Brandon, have you heard much of the discussion? We're having a real technical problem. I don't know if it's our end or your end. If you have an opportunity to plug into a Ethernet jack, that might help on your end. I don't know if you're using an iPad or.
Yeah, and so I switched over to a phone to improve quality, and that obviously didn't work. I've heard everything that has gone on.
Yeah, the issue is the video as well. We're getting very mixed bag on your videos. So I counted since I called your name several times and we couldn't get you for the vote on the last bill, I had you, oh, you did?
Yep.
We didn't hear your response.
Yeah, I heard everything.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. That's what's leading, well, then maybe the problem's on our end. Anyway, we're gonna have this room wired, so we'll get that taken care of. But for now, we'll mark you as an abstention on the last two votes. I'm not sure that we've met the criteria to make your votes valid, so. We'll try again on this next round and we'll see how it goes. So we have, bill number what?
6129.
6129.
Okay, so we're at 12D, bill number
So,
61.
is there a number?
Or did you announce the result of that?
hasn't.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, that's what I was asking.
Bill number 6129 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4777.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're on item 12D, which is bill number 6125. Mr. City Attorney, second reading.
Bill number 6125, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance amending several provisions of the city's municipal code, chapter 215, offenses involving hours of construction, and chapter 500.010.020 and .080, regulations governing construction.
All right, thank you. Alderman Kramer, synopsis.
Yes, Your Honor, a little bit further detail on Bill 6125, eligible for legislation this evening, our second reading regarding amendments to Chapter 215, offenses, Article 16, offenses involving hours of construction, Chapter 500, building and building regulations, Article 1, in general to determine reasonable enforcement of construction hours and if construction activities are occurring outside the prescribed construction hours. Our city code of ordinances includes restrictions on construction hours. Presently, the code addresses construction hours in two sections of the code, Chapter 215, offenses, Article 16, offenses involving hours of construction, and Chapter 500, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 1, in general, Section 500.020, construction hours. The two sections state different hours of construction and contradict each other. Therefore, one of these sections needs to be deleted. Additionally, there must be a clear understanding of what constitutes construction activity in order to determine if construction is occurring outside of the city's prescribed construction hours and is a violation of the code that's occurred. The proposed amendments to Chapter 500 would define construction activity as, quote, any activity which progresses or contributes to the completion of the construction on the job site. Such activity shall include, but are not limited to, operation or use of tools or equipment, collecting debris and/or cleaning up the job site, making deliveries. Our Public Works Committee unanimously recommended the approval to the amendments to Chapter 215 and 500 contained within Bill number 6125.
All right, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6125 into ordinance form. Discussion is now appropriate. Alderman Leahy.
I would like to clarify for the public on Bill 6125 that these hours reflect the commercial construction, that homeowner efforts and work on their homes to maintain do not apply to these hours.
Okay. I'm
True. All right. Is that correct? I don't know if that's entirely true.
Our city attorney is looking somewhat confused, so I was looking at him, but perhaps not.
Can I just help with maybe?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that is correct to state that. I just wanted to point out, though, that these would be applied to residential areas as well. So
Yes.
it's applied citywide, but again, for residential properties, it has to be the case where it's new construction, major addition, and, those two scenarios. So yes, a person working on their deck themselves, it would not.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's what I was leading to. Thank you.
Alderman Kramer?
And additionally, Your Honor, just a clarification, we had it last time. This also now includes diesel sounds from the street adjacent to the construction project. Is that also correct?
Yes, we left that reference in there about the diesel noise activity, and that can also be from it parked on the street. So
Thank you.
the job site is now the parcel and the street adjacent to the job site.
Thank you.
And then the last thing that was brought up at the meeting was just that there was a request that the ordinance be amended to include that the homeowner shall also be responsible for assuring that all contractors are complying with the provisions contained in that article. So we did include that in the ordinance, but otherwise,
Has that been amended since last?
It says general contractor.
yes, that would be in the revised ordinance, section 4. In bold, what was added was the general contractor, and in the case of residential properties, the property
No,
owner.
I understand that it's been added, but has it been added since our first reading?
No, that was in the original. We had done that in the committee
The
meeting.
original.
Yes.
It was in the original.
It was
in
in
the
the
It was
first
not
reading.
amended.
So the bill hasn't changed?
It
Is that
hasn't
what? Okay,
changed.
very good.
Yeah. But if I may, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you. Lisa commented that the homeowner would be responsible. The bill was specifically established that the general contractor is the responsible party. So he's responsible for him and all of his subcontractors to comply to the code. That's the big change that we're also bringing in with the hours. That who is responsible for violating? Can I, as the general contractor, blame, well, I'm sorry, you got some flooring guy that's doing it, and I have no control over it. We decided that it was best that if the general contractor be responsible to help ensure that the code was met. Lisa misspoke when she said it was the homeowner that would do that.
Well, not to get too far off the subject, if everybody, so I have two concerns, right? The first one is I want to make sure that the bill that was read first and the bill that was read second is the same bill, because otherwise we aren't passing valid legislation. The second concern is I did mention something at the last meeting about I would encourage the board to consider an amendment that made the property owner liable as well as anybody else.
That is
And if what I'm being told is that's been added,
I don't see it.
I haven't seen it, so I
That
just,
is-
okay.
The bill before you.
So as long as it hasn't changed, I'm fine.
The
I'm
bill
not,
before you is the same bill that was read on May 1st.
okay.
So it doesn't reflect the changes you.
No,
indicated
that's
you'd
all
like
I
to
was
see.
worried about, was if we had a change, I just wasn't aware of it, and I wanted to make sure we were passing the same bill. Alderman Flufka.
So without that, and I thought we had that in there too, I mean, I would be not in favor. It doesn't matter to me as a neighbor whether or not the noise is emanating as a result of a homeowner constructing an addition on his house, or a general contractor is constructing an addition on his house. The problem I've got is the noise. And I don't care where it's coming from. I mean, I don't care who's responsible for it. I want the rule to apply to noise in the morning and all of that. And I had thought, and again, this is my mistake, I guess, that when we made reference to the general contractor, I thought there was some discussion at the first reading that if the homeowner was acting as the general contractor, hiring subs, telling them when to show up, things like that, that he could be, or she could be responsible as the quote-unquote general contractor by way of definition, by the way that they are conducting themselves with regard to that construction.
Our city attorney, I think, has some clarifying
The
comments.
difficulty would be the homeowner doing the work themselves. As you point out, if the purpose of the regulation is the disturbance caused by noise, whether it's a hired craftsman or the homeowner themselves that decides at 5:30 in the morning they're gonna start using the jackhammer, I don't imagine that's of much concern to the neighbor. So the ordinance as written does address questions of general contractor, and there is it can infer that a property owner is their own general contractor, but given, I don't think that's clear, and given the presumptions against inferences that cannot be sustained in a prosecution for violation of an ordinance, I think we ought to clean up the language before you all act on it finally and try and get a consensus as to what you want us to present more thoroughly at the next meeting.
Alderman Kramer?
Your Honor, when we wrote the original language for the construction hours, it was predominantly with the residential area in mind for the construction of the infill homes. And as I recall, it was not specific as to contractor, homeowner responsible. It simply said, this noise shall not happen between these hours and this hours. It was very clear. And that the city would be charged with enforcing that upon the homeowner by default. The homeowner would then have to go after the contractor on his own. That's between them two, in my opinion. But the original language, I believe, was silent in terms of homeowner versus general contractor.
And just to further clarify, my comment was only that I would hold everybody liable, not only the person making the noise if it's not the homeowner or the property owner, but also the property owner who's allowing somebody to be on their property and make the noise.
Right.
So that was my only comment, was you shouldn't limit your liability to a general contractor. You should also hold the property owner accountable for what's happening on their property. They would be presumably jointly and severally liable for such things, so to speak. Alderman Dibbitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just remind the board that the genesis of all this it was a few months ago, and that was a culmination of a number of complaints to Lisa's office about infill housing construction. It was new construction, and it was general contractors who were on site or who were in charge of the sites. And in terms of prosecution, what we were finding out is when we ticketed a sub for violating the noise ordinance, it was maybe more of an enforcement issue on that subcontractor. And so what we decided is that maybe if we had the general contractor be strictly liable for the violations of their subs, then the general contractor can police the location themselves and put the burden on the GC instead of on the sub. Number two, if the GC gets hit enough, then that contractor might start deciding, telling the sub, you know what, we're not going to use you anymore because you continue to violate this and we continue to get hit with a fine. So that's what really prompted these changes to the ordinances to begin with. I would encourage the board, I understand the need to try and clarify and have it applied to somebody else, and I'm not opposed to doing that, but I would simply remind the board that we're starting to get back up on construction season, and I would like to get something in place as soon as possible to address what I think is the major offender of the noise ordinances, the construction ordinances as we have right now, and that's the infill housing by general contractors.
Alderman Kramer.
Your Honor, could we simply, I understand the gravity here. Could we simply add the general contractor and the property owner?
Well, you can offer an amendment if you like. I think our city attorney might have a suggestion.
Yeah, first of all, I would point out that the ordinance only applies to new residential dwelling construction or renovations of more than 50% of the habitable space. So this isn't John Q. Public fixing up his house. Right. All right, this is major work. The likelihood this is being done in person by the owner of the property is pretty slim. But in any event, I would prefer the opportunity to sort of make sure that we have to tweak Part A and left Part B dangling out there and make sure we have it in context. And I think I get sort of a consensus, at least of those who have made comments. And we might discuss a joint and several liability, articulating it, the person working outside hours, as well as those who have engaged them, as well as those on whose behalf they work. So,
Alderman Leahy.
In following with the city attorney's suggestion, I can withdraw my motion to perfect Bill 6125 and ask that the board allow it to go back for legal review before we do a final passage.
If you'd accept a little help or a little recommendation there, I would prefer a motion to postpone action on this item until a date certain.
You have a motion, though, to perfect the bill already on the floor.
Right.
And I'm asking to withdraw that motion.
We can simply table the motion, postpone action. But,
Oh, okay.
yeah. If you withdraw, well, I guess you could withdraw the motion.
Yeah.
We could let it die after first reading. That's fine.
This,
You move to withdraw then?
yes, this is the second reading.
Yeah, but it's already had a first. We
Yeah.
could just let it
I
die
would-
after a first.
Yes, I would like to withdraw the motion to perfect.
Okay. So, the question is, where does that leave us?
you could table, it's on the agenda for second reading, it's been second read. You could table further action to the next agenda, and for the purpose of receiving amendments for consideration.
So moved. Second.
You okay with that?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, I just want to make sure, because you were,
Yes.
all right, so we have a second on that motion.
Yes.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we postpone further action on this item until the June 15th meeting?
19.
June 19th meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? All right, all in favor of postponing this item until June 19th, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Uh,
One opposed, or was that an aye?
That was an aye with the lag.
With a delayed aye. All right, so we will postpone action on this item until the 6/19 meeting. All right, that brings us to item 12E on the agenda, which is bill number 6127. Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6127, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of service agreements with Thuvino, Wade, and Morshan, Inc.
Short. Alderman Kramer, synopsis, please.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor. With a little bit further information here for Bill 6127, covers the agreement on TDW on Manchester Road, our Route 100 enhancement. to the MoDOT project, an agreement with TWM Incorporated for engineering services associated with that Manchester Road project and the enhancements thereof. City of Brentwood, in conjunction with the Missouri Department of Transportation, the Manchester Road Pavement Improvements Project, limits from Lindbergh to Big Bend, request a separate contract with TWM Incorporated, the lead design engineer for the Manchester Road Pavement Improvements Project. The work scope includes developing access management control to properties along Manchester Road, enhancing the lighting of pedestrian trails, traffic signal equipment, a possible crosswalk at Manderley Drive, wayfinding signage, bus shelters, coordinating with the city's landscape architect, and that's preparing federal reimbursement applications as well, preparing cost estimates, and investigating the feasibility of reconfiguring a Mary Avenue, Dorothy Avenue with regards to the future Great Rivers Greenway, Gloria Rogers Parkway underpass project. Our Public Works Committee has recommended unanimously to the Board of Aldermen for consideration of an ordinance approving the execution of a service agreement with Thuvino, Wade, and Merchant Incorporated, TWM Incorporated, related to the project enhancements for the Manchester Road Improvements Project. This is Bill number 6127.
All right, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, a motion to perfect Bill 6127 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6127 into ordinance form. Discussion is now appropriate. Before we start, I'd just like to say that at our meeting on Saturday, it was brought up that the board would like to see investigation of a hawk at that location or near that location where the Deer Creek connector would cross Manchester Road. So our staff has contacted TWM and asked them about the analysis for a hawk at that location, and they've included that as part of this deal at no extra charge. So while they did give us the obligatory warning about scope creep, they did agree to do that analysis at no additional charge, so that will be a part of this contract.
Your Honor, for the benefit of the audience, would you like to explain what the hawk is versus the dove, the pigeon, or the crow?
Sure. So the preliminary plan from Great Rivers Greenway with respect to the connector to the Deer Creek Greenway from Rogers Parkway calls for a tunnel underneath Manchester Road. As you can imagine, a tunnel is an expensive or relatively expensive improvement, and so the board had directed the staff to investigate the possibility of I forget what HAWK stands for, but basically it's a lighted pedestrian crossing that would, and there's a very long history to that. It was considered to do that there, but the slope and the pitch of that area makes it very difficult to make it ADA compliant, is the gist of it. But now, with all the other things that are going on in that area, we've asked the engineering firm TWM to take another look at it. They've agreed to do that as part of this project for no additional charge. So I think it's a very good deal and an indication of what kind of good firm they are, actually. Anyway, that's just further information that I don't think we had before. So, any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Bill number 6127 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4778.
All right, thank you. Item 12F on the agenda is bill number 6128. Mr. City Attorney, first reading, or second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6128, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance amending Chapter 305 of the Brentwood Municipal Code relating to designation and duties of the city's traffic engineer.
All right, thank you. Alderman Kramer, synopsis?
Yes, Your Honor. A little greater enlightenment here. Bill number 6128 covers the companion bill to the comprehensive citywide traffic calming program and ordinance amending Chapter 305 of the Brentwood Municipal Code as it relates to the designation and duties of the city's traffic engineer, be it ordained by the Board of Aldermen, City of Brentwood, Missouri. Our Public Safety Committee recommended unanimously to the Board of Aldermen a companion bill to the traffic calming toolkit. This bill allows the Board of Aldermen to achieve flexibility while avoiding mandatory additional expense if a Director of Public Works somehow is not a professional engineer, PE. The Public Safety Committee unanimously recommends the amendment to the Brentwood Municipal Code relating to the designation and duties of the city's traffic engineer, part of the language included in Bill number 6128.
All right, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect.
So moved.
Second, Your Honor.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6128 in ordinance form. Do we have any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Flufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Bill number
There.
61,
We got you.
Bill number 6128 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4779.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item number 14 on the agenda. We have no resolutions, but we do have accounts against the city. Alderman Demmett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have in front of you is the warrant list for period ending May 11th, 2017. I have had an opportunity to talk with staff about this, and they've given me some information to work with. And so consequently, I would approve the warrant list in the amount of $122,706.23.
Second, Your Honor.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the warrant list as submitted. Is there any discussion? Alderman Leahy.
Can we get a little bit of public acknowledgement of what's going on the last two items for Planning Design Studios?
You can if Alderman Demmett knows.
That's actually one of the questions that I had all day. Great minds think
I
alike.
kind of knew that before Alderman Demmett got on there. I wouldn't put him on the spot like that, you know.
Great minds think alike.
Thank you, sir, for the compliment.
Let's see here. If I can find the answer, it might be faster for Bola to provide the answer. Bola, can you help me out here? I'm trying.
So the city, because Planning Design Studio has an on-call agreement with the city, I executed the agreement for the this is for the Rogers Parkway Greenway feasibility study. This was included in the budget. So as they complete different parts of the scope of work, they issue the city with an invoice. So we are attempting to pay that invoice tonight. There is, for each one of these work orders that we have entered into with Planning Design Studio, a not-to-exceed amount. So we monitor that to make sure that it's still within the dollar amount for each of the specific projects, whether it's for the Brentwood Recreation Complex parking lot or for the Rogers Parkway Greenway feasibility study.
Can you explain further what we're looking at potentially might consider on the Brentwood parking lot at the rec center? Where is that one taking us?
I will defer to Eric Grunenfelder if you want
Thank
to
you.
answer that.
Director Grunenfelder, welcome to the board meeting. Come on down.
Thank you. So this is the design phase and construction documents for the parking lot to turn that more into an event venue. So sort of the stuff that we were talking about on Saturday and some of those lovely pictures that we saw.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve the warrant list as submitted? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Flufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Pay bills.
All right, bills are paid for another month. That brings us to item number 16, reports of committees and department heads. First up is my report. A couple things for tonight. So the first thing is, late last week, I received an email from Gary Hassenflue. If you all remember, Gary Hassenflue is the president of the company that was developing the Metro on Manchester project at Manchester and Hanley Road. I said was developing because he has indicated that they will no longer be pursuing that development. His email stated that the property, he is no longer under contract to purchase the property, and that the owner of the property had another contract in place. We have not heard from any such entity. His email indicated he believed it was a retail developer, whatever that means. But again, I don't think anybody at the city has heard from anybody or the property owner to that effect. So I don't know what the status of the property is. I only know that Mr. Hassenflue's project is no longer with us. So, Alderman Leahy?
Does that revert the zoning change that we made for the Metro back to the original zoning?
No.
So that zoning that we gave Metro is still in place on the potential property?
That parcel and the one, I believe it's one or two parcels, but anyway, they're now zoned UD.
Thank you.
Yeah. And will be affected by the changes that were just approved this evening, so, yeah. Mr. Hassenflue's project is off the books. You know, I have mixed feelings about it. I think it was, you know, I certainly support the idea of a project like that. I think there were probably some legitimate concerns about the project. But at the end of the day, we're left with an empty lot at the corner of Manchester and Hanley Road, which isn't doing anybody any good. So I'm hopeful that we will maybe address that as part of what's going to be going on down in that area here shortly. Second up on my list is appointment of committees. I have circulated to the Board of Aldermen my committee appointments for the year, for this year. A couple things I want to say about that. First is these are one-year appointments. I do plan to revisit them every year as the Board of Aldermen changes, or even if it doesn't. I will tell you that my overriding goal in making these appointments is always whether we have the best people in place who can do the work that I believe needs to be done in the committee. But this year, I would say, since we've had relatively little change, and I was very pleased with how the committees were operating, what I tried to do, I tried to do was more what I would call fine tuning or tinkering than wholesale change. So less consideration to those types of things and more consideration to giving people time and a chance to participate. So let me explain. What I tried to do is I tried to keep my committee chairman on just a single committee so that they could focus their entire time on their committee. I wasn't able to do that with Alderman Dimmitt. He drew the short straw, but I was able to do it with Alderman Plufka and Alderman Leahy. And I think, you know, being a chairman is an extra measure of work, and I think, you know, if you have that time to focus on your committee and its doings, you can do things that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have time for. The other thing that I tried to do is I tried to look at people who were on only one committee last year and put them on two committees this year to some extent, and take people who were only on two committees last year and put them on only one committee this year. For kind of share the workload a little bit. I know you're all more than willing to participate, but I know that, you know, being up here 3 and 4 and 5 times a week can get a little taxing with the family and so forth. So what I tried to do was share that labor around. And like I said, I really did, you know, do this all with a mind to keeping, you know, the right level of experience in the right places for the things that I see coming down the pike. So I did give it some thought. The last thing that I always try to do is I try to balance the committees vis-a-vis ward. That's harder to do because of the distribution, but I was able to get a relatively decent balance as far as that goes. So I was fairly pleased with that. So with that, if there are any, if there's any discussion on the appointments, I guess technically we would need a motion to approve the appointments as made. It doesn't mean you're in favor, just means we could start a discussion if you want.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded that the appointments be approved as submitted. Any discussion? Alderman Leahy.
You've got the 3 aldermatic committees here, but there are multiple other committees.
I'm
that
sorry,
we
yeah,
need to address.
It's a good point. I did not. So let me explain a couple things. The Communications Committee, Lori Coulter has resigned as the chairman of the Communications Committee. She's starting a venture capital-based business, funded business, and she's been very, very busy with that. I think she's done an excellent job, but she no longer has the time. She's traveling out to LA and Silicon Valley and all over the place. So, and honestly, I've decided to not appoint anybody to the Communications Committee for this year, actually. Bola, I believe, has either made an offer or getting close to making an offer to our communications director. And my thought is that when that person comes on board, that will really be the staff person that interfaces with that committee. And so my feeling is that if we give that staff person a little bit of time to come on board, get their feet set and everything, and then we reliven that committee, this time next year, or maybe even sooner if the circumstances allow, that would be a good thing. So I've chosen not to appoint anybody to the Communications Committee. And again, really just by way of saving our time and effort collectively for the things that really are in front of us. I'm trying to make those. With respect to the other committees, if I didn't make appointments, it's because I intend to reappoint the people who are there. So there are a number of other committees, I think, where, I'm trying to think of it, like, for example, the Human Rights Commission, and there was...
353, the...
Well, the
planning and zoning.
353, yeah.
All of these have multiple residents involved in it.
Right. So, they will remain as is. The people who are up for appointment are being reappointed, except for, and I'm going to thank you for putting me on the spot.
I apologize, Your Honor.
I did have names of appointments for library trustee. I also wanted to reappoint Alderwoman O'Neill, and so I would add to the motion if everybody would allow. I want to reappoint Alderman O'Neill as the library liaison, and that was not part of the list that I submitted earlier today, so I apologize for that. She's so well suited for the deal, I didn't even think it bore any discussion, but I'm going to ask Bola if she has the names that I had appointed for the library trustees. Right, okay, thank you. Anyway, but what I wanted to do was have the committee appointments go through on a single motion,
Catch up.
and then catch up on these others, because while these have to be appointed, there's frequently more discussion about the committees than there are some of the other appointments.
Okay. Thank you, Your
Okay,
Honor.
sorry, that was really long, but.
I'll be happy to make the motion to amend the committee assignments to include library representative to be Alderman O'Neill.
Second.
Moved and seconded to add Alderwoman O'Neill as the library liaison. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So that's the motion on the table. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Motion on the floor. No further discussion on committee appointments. All in favor of the committee appointments, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. So we'll take those. I have two other appointments to make this evening. I'm appointing Cindy Bechtel, as a trustee to the library. She's volunteered. She's from Ward 4. She has a very strong background, and she comes highly recommended by Alderwoman O'Neill, who, as I said, is doing such a fantastic job. So I've appointed her to the Board of Library Trustees. I have also appointed Jardy Schmaltz to the Human Rights Commission. And Jardy is also from Ward 4. And I want to thank Alderman Kramer and Alderwoman O'Neill for going out and clearly beating the bushes to get me volunteers from Ward 4. I sure appreciate it. So I'm very happy to have Jardy on the Human Rights Commission and Cindy Bechtel on the Library Board of Trustees. Okay, so and while we're on the subject, to Andy's point, I will also formally reappoint Jamie Kirsch, Cindy Bannistar, Chris Harrington, and Dave Ressner to the Board of Library Trustees. So, if I could get a motion to have Kirsch, Manistar, Harrington, Ressner, and Bechtel appointed as library trustees, and Jardy Schmalz appointed to the Human Rights Commission.
So moved, Your Honor.
All right.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the appointments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Great, thank you very much. One last thing, and then I'll be done. Well, two last things, actually. The first is, I didn't mean to come down on Alderman Plufka, but I'm going to say this to the whole board, because I've noticed a trend, and it's like most things, it's based in good intentions, but I have to speak out against it. So here we go. A lot of you like to make points by asking questions to a third party in front, right? And then, by virtue of the question, getting the discussion going. And you really don't have to do that. If you disagree with one another, just disagree with one another. You don't have to ask somebody standing in front a question you already know the answer to, or try to drag an answer out of them. You can just say, so-and-so says, or, it's fine. It will be quicker, it'll be more efficient, and it will avoid putting staff on the spot, and at the end of the day, we're going to get a better result. And I think this board can do that. I respect your all's desire to be polite to one another and not, but that's kind of what this is all about. It's okay for us to butt heads a little bit up here. So, what I would encourage you to do, that's sort of my role, is to direct your comments to the chair, right? If you don't feel comfortable talking directly to one another, that's fine, but direct your comments to the chair. But if we can avoid, it makes us a little bit inefficient to go through our process for first reading and then questions and get all the information. And then if we do the whole thing again on second reading, it makes us a lot less efficient. And so if you would, please just try to keep that second reading about discussion and expressing opinion, and just say it straight out and be done with it. It's fine. I encourage it, and I don't want to ban the staff from being involved in the second, because I think it's helpful. Anything that's helpful to the board, I want to take place, but I don't want it to take the place of debate, which is kind of where I feel we're headed, or we've been a little bit lately, and I really just don't want that to happen. So, for what it's worth, that's what I'm telling you. And the last thing is, I have a few alternate positions on the Board of Adjustment that I need to fill. And the Board of Adjustment is a very critical part of what we do, because almost every project that comes through needs variances from the code. And they're, as you know, a quasi-judicial body. They make, decisions that are reviewable by the circuit court if people don't like them. And so if any of you have recommendations for the Board of Adjustment, I would gladly hear them. Like I said, I believe the positions I have right at the moment are alternate positions. I have one alternate that I'm going to appoint tonight. Sorry, you're right. But if any of you have any addition to this, I have a couple people that are sort of dying to come off the Board of Adjustment and rarely available when we do call on them. So anyway, so tonight I'd like to appoint Robert Boley, also of Ward 4. Thank you you guys have really done an outstanding job of getting your folks motivated, as an alternate to the Board of Adjustment. And he's got a very impressive resume. I don't know him personally, but his background seems very well suited to this, and I'm happy to appoint him as a alternate to the Board of Adjustment. I don't know which alternate he will be, but I'm sure Lisa can work that out. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Boley?
So moved.
Second.
I was trying to see which of my Ward 4 aldermen referred. So it's been moved and seconded by Ward 4 that Robert Boley of Ward 4 be appointed to the Board of Adjustment. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointment say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Anyway, to the extent you have recommendations for the remaining alternate positions on the board, I would appreciate your input. That's it for me.
Is there one more?
Sorry?
Is there one more?
I think we're done. We're not? I'm not?
We're done.
Okay, I'm not done, but I don't know who I'm supposed to do.
Does it have anything to do with us?
That's new business.
That's under new business. That's under new business, sorry. No, that's new business. That's not under me.
That was.
That's nothing to do with me. I'm simply here to conduct that one, not
That's 18.
yeah, it is. So. 16B, Public Safety Committee, Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 unfinished items over the last several months. We have, we're expecting a report on the county's reaction to our efforts to calm traffic at Brentwood and Strassner. We're awaiting a report from our Public Works Department on the success of thermoplastic lines being used instead of just painting them on. It's a different process that's going to allow for more permanent and more visible lines and marks on the stop sign marks and things like that. We're also waiting for an ordinance change to be presented to the full board for consideration regarding parking specifically on Swim Club Lane on the west side. And because all these things are sort of in limbo at this point and we don't have anything to act on, and because I have a conflict on Thursday, there will not be a public safety meeting this Thursday in this chamber. Instead, the next meeting of public safety will be at 5:30 in this chamber on June 15th.
All right, thank you. Public Works, Alderman Leahy.
Good evening. The next Public Works Committee will be Wednesday, June 14th, tentatively scheduled at 4:30. I would like to check with the committee members to verify that that time still works with all committee members before we lock it in stone, and I'll get back to you this week.
Yeah, Alderman Wege, can you still hear us?
I can hear you, can you hear me?
We can with some small delay, but we've got no, unless you've gotten really ill, the video is no longer working.
You're very colorful.
Disgusting.
One of the concerns I had in putting you on the Public Works Committee is I know Alderman Leahy's schedule tends to have those meetings kind of earlier in the evening, and I didn't know if he'd be able to accommodate you. So.
We can, that's what I want to talk
Okay.
with the committee members. We might be able to move it backwards in order to
Fine.
make everybody convenient.
Fine. Okay, so I'll let you guys work that out.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Director of Planning and Development. Ways and Means, Alderman Dimmitt.
The next meeting will be, instead of June 1st, it's going to be June 8th at 6 o'clock here.
Okay. City Attorney.
No reports.
Madam City Administrator.
No report, Your Honor.
I'm gonna call Alderman Dimmitt, but the new excise commissioner, Alderman Dimmitt, I'll ask for a report, and then if our new excise commissioner has anything to add.
I personally don't have anything, but I can't speak for the new excise commissioner.
I was just hoping for a badge.
I was going to let you defer to Mr. Wiggy.
Oh, well, Alderman Wege would say, "Bajas? We don't need no stinking bajas." Anyway, did you hear that? Madam Library Liaison, do you have any report?
No report.
All right. Municipal League, I have nothing from the Municipal League. Historical Society. Well, that's right. We're going to have to change that, I think. Yeah, because, you know. Yeah, I'll work on that. Thank you, Jim. That brings us to item 17. Are there any announcements from the board? Alderman Lockmiller.
Ward 3 will meet here at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, the 30th of May. All are welcome.
Alderman Plufker, were you pointing or raising your hand?
I was pointing.
He was pointing at me.
Alderman
Mr. Chairman.
Dimmitt. Oh, I
Yes.
see. All right.
Ward 1 is going to have a meeting in the month of June on a Tuesday. We just haven't figured out yet when. But
Okay,
when
so
we do, we will post it on
for
Nextdoor.
residents of Ward 1, show up here every Tuesday. If you get lucky, you'll get a meeting. If not, you know, head down to OB's. That's probably where you'll find them.
We'll set out yard signs too. We'll set out yard
Oh, I
signs.
mean, yeah. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Yes, it is. Hey, it's past 8:30. I'm telling you, past 8:30. It's very public good
One
stuff.
more.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Okay, Ward 4 will meet next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse.
All right. Good job. Any further announcements? Seeing none, new business. Yeah, I apologize. I probably should have asked for a motion to amend the agenda. Did I not do that?
You did.
I did.
Yes.
Oh, so we're good,
Yes.
right? All right, so under new business, we have tonight, by statute and by ordinance, we are to elect a acting president of the Board of Aldermen. That person, currently Alderman Kramer, will fulfill the duties of the mayor whenever the mayor is unable or unavailable to do so. So at this point in time, I would open the floor to nominations for the acting president of the Board of Aldermen. Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, I'd like to renominate Alderman Kramer for that position.
Second?
That moved in, nominated Alderman Kramer. Are there any further nominations? If there are no further nominations, then we will formally take a vote and elect Alderman Kramer. All in favor of Alderman Kramer being the acting president of the Board of Aldermen, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Abstain.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. I am humbled, thank you.
I love it. 19, hearing of any matter of public interest upon the request of any person present. Is there anybody who would care to come forward and address the Board of Aldermen? Do so. If you'd state your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes. I don't see anybody. Going once, going twice. Sold American. I would entertain a motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to 610-21-1 and 610-21-3.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we move into closed session pursuant to revised Missouri Statute 610.021 subsection 1 and 610.021 subsection 3, and that we adjourn this meeting from that closed session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we do what Alderman Plufka just said. It's too long to repeat. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Weggie.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to adjourn the meeting from the closed session this evening, so you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. We're going to take, let's see, call it 7 or 8 minutes, and we will reconvene. Let's go to 8:45. We'll reconvene 8:45 upstairs
Upstairs.
in the old firehouse. Yeah. Well, that'll give you enough time to go to the bathroom. If we start early, that's fine.